Welcome to Farming Aid.
What really happened to Angus in the U.S.? Once the undisputed gold standard of American beef, Angus cattle dominated grocery stores, restaurants, and feedlots for decades. But in recent years, the beef industry has been shaking up in ways that have left even seasoned ranchers and consumers asking questions. From changing consumer preferences to rising production costs, and the rise of hardier hybrid breeds, the Angus legacy is facing challenges like never before. In this video, we'll dive deep into the shakeup in the U.S. beef industry, uncover why farmers are shifting away from purebred Angus, and explore what it means for the future of premium beef. The Angus brand, which had long been built on a mix of genetics, feedlot practices, and marketing, began facing pressure from multiple fronts. First, consumer preferences were shifting. More and more buyers started to care not just about marbling, but about the sustainability, origin, and overall welfare of the cattle producing their meat. Grass-fed, pasture-raised, and ethically managed operations gained attention, and these labels often didn't carry the Angus name, yet they resonated with a new generation of meat eaters. As a result, demand for traditional Angus beef began plateauing, even as it had historically been the dominant segment of the market. Another factor was the economic pressures on ranchers and feedlots. Maintaining a purebred Angus herd was no small feat. The breed, while prized for its meat quality, came with certain vulnerabilities. Angus cattle often required higher quality feed and more intensive management to achieve the desirable marbling that drove their premium status. In regions prone to drought, extreme cold, or heat, the costs of keeping Angus cattle healthy and productive could rise dramatically. Farmers looking at their bottom line started exploring alternative breeds, some hybrid crosses, others hardier, less feed-intensive cattle that could thrive in conditions where Angus sometimes struggled. At the same time, the beef industry itself was undergoing a subtle but seismic shift. Consolidation among meatpacking companies and shifts in retail procurement practices changed the dynamics for producers. Large-scale processors increasingly favored uniformity and predictable weight gain over the nuanced genetics of purebred Angus. While the Angus brand still held marketing power, the logistics of large-scale operations meant that many processors were willing to accept other breeds that could deliver consistency, even if they didn't carry the prestigious label. The implications for ranchers were profound. The very breed that once guaranteed a premium price was becoming less critical in the eyes of bulk buyers and distributors. Interestingly, this shakeup wasn't just about economics. It was also about genetics and innovation. Over the last decade, breeders and agricultural scientists have been experimenting with crosses designed to retain Angus marbling while incorporating traits from hardier breeds. These hybrids can withstand harsher climates, require less feed, and grow efficiently, all while producing meat that looks and tastes remarkably like traditional Angus. For producers, these crosses offer a pragmatic solution. Keep costs down, manage environmental pressures, and still deliver a product that meets consumer expectations. The rise of these hybrid lines blurred the lines of what consumers think of as Angus beef, creating both opportunity and confusion in the marketplace. Consumer perception also played a crucial role. For years, Angus marketing campaigns were incredibly effective, emphasizing quality, consistency, and taste. But as more people became aware of terms like heritage breed, grass-fed, and regenerative agriculture, the focus shifted from breed alone to the story behind the meat. Customers began asking where their beef came from, how it was raised, and whether the practices were environmentally responsible. Suddenly, the black label that once guaranteed premium status was no longer enough. Even in high-end grocery stores, meat sections began carrying a variety of breeds and labels that competed with Angus, giving shoppers more choices than ever before. The decline of traditional Angus dominance also intersected with global market pressures. U.S. Beef exports have been a major part of the industry, and international buyers often have different preferences than domestic consumers. In some export markets, larger-framed, leaner cattle are preferred, which again can disadvantage purebred Angus. Ranchers who once relied solely on domestic premium markets started diversifying their herds or altering their production strategies to meet global demand. The economic reality was clear. Sticking rigidly to Angus could be a liability in a rapidly changing market. Even the cultural mythology around Angus began to shift. For decades, the image of the black, muscular cow grazing in open pastures reinforced the idea of the ideal American beef experience. But as farmers increasingly turned to crossbreeds or more resilient cattle, the cultural narrative began to diversify. Some ranchers embraced the story of hybrid vigor and hardiness, marketing their beef on resilience rather than just marbling. Others leaned into heritage or locally adapted breeds, appealing to consumers who valued authenticity and environmental stewardship over brand name alone. In a sense, the rise of these narratives challenged the monopoly of the Angus identity in the beef industry. Interestingly, some regions of the United States held strong to Angus dominance longer than others. The Midwest and the Great Plains, with their vast feedlots and history of commercial cattle production, remained bastions of traditional Angus operations. In contrast, western and southern states, where environmental conditions were harsher and operational challenges greater, saw a faster adoption of alternative breeds. These regional differences meant that the story of Angus decline is not uniform, it's a patchwork of economics, environment, and culture interacting in complex ways. Another factor often overlooked is the influence of technology and data-driven breeding. Modern ranchers have access to sophisticated tools for measuring feed efficiency, growth rates, and carcass quality. This level of precision has allowed producers to make decisions based on measurable performance rather than historical reputation alone. When hybrids or alternative breeds outperform traditional Angus under specific conditions, the choice becomes clear. Over time, this has gradually eroded the exclusive premium perception once enjoyed by Angus cattle. The media and culinary world also played a role. Celebrity chefs, food documentaries, and lifestyle influencers began highlighting lesser-known breeds, pasture-raised operations, and artisanal beef producers. Their audiences increasingly associated quality with story and sustainability, rather than brand recognition alone. The rise of this kind of consumer awareness meant that the Angus brand, while still strong, faced new competition in shaping public perception. Consumers could choose flavor, ethics, or novelty, and often Angus was just one option among many. Despite these pressures, it would be inaccurate to say Angus has disappeared from the market. In fact, the breed still commands respect, and its genetics remain highly valued in crossbreeding programs. Angus cattle continue to produce high-quality beef and serve as the backbone of many commercial herds. The key difference is that Angus no longer operates in a vacuum of dominance. Where once a black label automatically signified premium meat, today it competes in a crowded field of brands, breeds, and narratives. The shakeup isn't about extinction, it's about adaptation. Producers and marketers must evolve alongside consumer expectations, environmental realities, and economic pressures. Looking forward, the future of Angus in the U.S. beef industry is likely to be one of hybridization and storytelling. Ranchers are increasingly blending Angus with other breeds to capture the best of both worlds, the flavor and marbling consumers associate with Angus, combined with the resilience and efficiency of alternative genetics. At the same time, marketing strategies are shifting from simple breed recognition to highlighting origin, sustainability, and the story of the farm itself. In this new era, Angus remains valuable, but it's no longer the sole hero of the narrative. This transformation in the beef industry is a reminder of how markets evolve. What was once a straightforward premium brand has become part of a larger conversation about quality, ethics, and efficiency. Ranchers who cling rigidly to tradition risk being left behind, while those who embrace innovation, adaptation, and strategic breeding find new ways to succeed. Consumers, for their part, benefit from a richer array of choices, from traditional Angus to grass-fed hybrids and heritage breeds. In short, the story of Angus reflects the broader evolution of American beef. A complex interplay of culture, economics, environment, and genetics that continues to shape the dinner plate in unexpected ways. Even the regulatory and certification frameworks have adapted. Angus associations now offer programs to certify purebred herds, track marbling scores, and even validate specific feeding practices. While these initiatives aim to protect brand integrity, they also illustrate the pressures producers face to justify premium pricing in a competitive market. Certification is no longer just a label, it's a tool to reinforce trust, differentiate products, and maintain relevance in an industry that increasingly values transparency and accountability. Ultimately, what happened to Angus in the US is less a story of decline and more a story of recalibration. The breed that once dominated purely on reputation now coexists with a host of alternatives that address evolving consumer demands and environmental realities. Angus cattle remain central to many herds, but their prominence is no longer unchallenged. The beef industry has grown more sophisticated, more competitive, and more responsive to global pressures than ever before. In this environment, adaptability is everything. As we look at the American cattle landscape today, the rise of hybrid breeding, changing consumer preferences, and market diversification all signal a broader shift. Angus is no longer the automatic mark of premium meat, but it continues to be a foundational component in modern beef production. Ranchers who understand the nuances of genetics, feeding, and market positioning can still leverage Angus' reputation while innovating to meet contemporary challenges. This balance between tradition and innovation is what defines the current shakeup in the U.S. beef industry. The story of Angus in the U.S. isn't about decline, it's about change. From shifting consumer demands to economic pressures and innovative hybrid breeds, the beef industry is evolving, and Angus is adapting right along with it. While it may no longer dominate like it once did, Angus cattle still play a key role in American beef production, offering quality, flavor, and tradition. What happens next will depend on how ranchers, marketers, and consumers respond to this new landscape. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below with your thoughts. Have you noticed Angus beef changes in your area, or tried alternatives that surprised you? We'd love to hear your take.